Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Talking Point. And The Talking Point is officially here. We've got everything sorted. A few technical difficulties and we're back. I'm not just back, but Doogie is back. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I've been away in Africa for the week or so. So I've enjoyed watching the Premier League from afar, but I'm back and the transfers are kicking off.
Indeed. Now, of course, as you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about Joao Felix and his move to Chelsea Football Club. Who can believe it? Well, not Jay, because Jay is the fan representing Chelsea, giving us the fan opinion. Jay, how are you doing? You're coming from Cambodia. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I want to throw it out in now. Apologies if the connection's slightly dodgy. I'm very grateful to be on here. It's lovely to chat to you, Zach, once again, and Doogie for the first time. The beard is looking magnificent. I'm really happy to be here and buzzing to talk Chelsea.
I love it. Thank you. Well, look, the studio is fully working now. We've figured everything out. I'm glad to be doing this. We'll be doing more of this kind of stuff in the future as well. But let's get on to the talking point about Joao Felix, because yes, only last week, me, Joe and Mikey sat here speaking about Joao Felix and where his possible future destination could be. We spoke about Manchester United, spoke at length about Manchester United, spoke at length about Arsenal. We got to Chelsea and Joe went, well, let's just get on with this one. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's no way Chelsea need more forwards. And a week later, here we are talking about Felix about to sign a 6-month contract at Chelsea Football Club for a reported fee of €11 million. Now, that is a lot of money for just 6 months on loan. Now, that figure has dropped from what was being reported last week of around €15 million, but the same thing is still intact with his contract too, which is about €6 million. So a lot of money there. Now, Dukes, firstly, I want to talk about the money. I want to talk about the fee because it is a lot. And I think really that's where the stumbling block comes, because €15 million for 6 months is a lot of money.
It definitely is, and it felt like Arsenal and Man United weren't prepared to go there, whereas Chelsea were, and it was said in the tweets that announced it from David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano that he was more interested in the Chelsea project, whereas if you look at it for 6 months, which is all this deal is, I'm surprised that that's the case. I mean, Arsenal are chasing a Premier League title. Whether they get there or not is another matter, but they're still in the FA Cup. Man United are on a great run of form as well, have an opening at centre forward, as do Chelsea, of course. But it feels like this is a massive risk, even though it's a loan fee, because this is a player that has had a comparatively poor spell at Atletico Madrid, in my opinion, and he's arriving in a Chelsea side that instantly needs someone to make a big impact. They've got a host of injuries at the moment, which is a crucial factor in their current form. But they need a player to hit the ground running, really, particularly in the goal-scoring stakes. They haven't been good enough so far. So I think this is a huge ask for a player whose club form, at least, hasn't been great recently.
No, I think I am on the same wavelength. Jay, how are you feeling about this? Because it is a big fee, and also there's no option to buy. It's not like the Zakaria deal where Chelsea at the end of the season, if he's played very well and they want to bring him in, can spend about 30 million quid to do so. There's no option to buy, but at the same time, Chelsea are struggling in front of goal. How do you feel about the fee?
Yeah, with the fee, I've always said this about Chelsea, and whatever type of player they sign is in my mind, besides Real Madrid and now Manchester City, Chelsea have always been a big money club, and it's not surprising that this money's being spent. It just seems to happen at Chelsea. It is risky. There are, a collection of risks attached to Joao Felix. We need creativity. We need goals. He's got more yellow cards than assists during his time at Atletico. And we know that assists aren't the only sort of measure of creativity, of course, but the fact is still there. He's got 20 yellow cards and 18 assists. The fee is high. The no option to buy is not ideal. However, I've seen a few suggestions online from voices I really respect in the community, sort of viewing this as an Nkunku beta test, which is a nice way to look at it. But it is expensive and it could backfire. It's either going to be a massive success or a massive failure, and I'm not quite sure where he's going to land just yet, but I'm really intrigued to see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, based on recent Chelsea transfers, it might be leaning more towards one end than the other. Now, Felix is also supposedly signing a year extension as well at Atletico Madrid, so that their market value for him doesn't drop come the summer, which makes a little bit of sense. And look, I think if I'm being honest about the fee, yeah, a lot of money. I can't really quite recall another move like this where it's been a 6-month loan move for this amount of money. There are clubs that spend £15 million on players in a summer, and that can be just their budget alone. And so it is a big call. Look, the guy's got huge potential, and we'll get onto that. And I can also understand that maybe, look, if Chelsea are trying to get closer to European football this season. They are still in the Champions League as well. I'm not too sure what the ruling is on that, having him played for Atletico already in the group stage. But yeah, look, I think we can all agree the fee is a lot of money. I think everybody in the footballing world can also do that. But let's move on to Chelsea quickly then at the moment, because Diggs, the situation there is getting worse. More players are getting injured. Pulisic is now out for a couple of weeks. Sterling has just had a scan, and that came back inclusive at the time of recording, so he's got to have another scan. So things up front and going forward, we mentioned earlier, creativity, goals, isn't great. Do you think that's why they looked at someone like Felix and was like, we need to get someone like him in? Who also, as well, at Atletico, wasn't having the best of times with the manager and wasn't playing, so maybe a little best of both worlds.
Yeah, I mean, starting on Chelsea, it feels like it's just one of those unfortunate scenarios where either through sort of accident or poor adaptation, none of their summer signings has really worked out. I always think that if an entire flux of summer signings come in for huge amounts of money and don't hit, and then you sack your manager 7 games into the season, like the mood around the club is obviously pretty low.
Yeah.
And it feels like some of the players rather are using what's happened in the last 12 months with Roman Abramovich being forced to sell the club, all the changes at boardroom level, as maybe a slight excuse. And I do think their results, particularly in the Premier League games recently, against opposition you'd expect them to win.
Forest.
Yeah, have been poor, to be honest. Yes, they got heavily beaten by Man City in the FA Cup. Not a total disaster, given there was a heavily changed side. But it just feels like still, despite spending over £60 million on Cucurella in the summer, it still feels like without Chilwell and James, your starting wing-backs, there's just a lack of thrust, there's a lack of intensity, there's a lack of creativity, as Jay says. And it's a problem that I think we've earmarked at Chelsea for a while. It feels like only Mason Mount of the regular starters is able really to create anything out of nothing. I think Kai Havertz has been consistently sort of disappointing, showing flashes of brilliance, but for £72 million, you'd expect more than flashes at this stage. And probably our most natural creator at the club, Hakim Ziyech, has never really been given a consistent run of games. There's been injury issues. He's been in and out of the side. So you're asking a lot of a player like Joao Felix to come in when Aubameyang, a much more experienced striker who has done well in the Premier League in the past, albeit not recently, has really struggled at Chelsea this season. So I think you're asking a lot for a player who's coming in, having not had the best time at Atleti, which we'll get onto in due course, to instantly hit the ground running and improve that side. So I think he's got a massive burden on him, and I feel like that's maybe a bit unfair.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, let's move on then, Jay, onto how he kind of fits into this Chelsea team exactly, because Chelsea are either playing a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3 at times, every now and again a 3 at the back formation, and he's not necessarily had the greatest of time fitting in at Atletico Madrid. We've seen him play off the left, we've seen him pllaying in a front 2 as a second striker, as a 10. How do you think he fits into this Chelsea side? Where do you think he plays exactly in Potter's system?
It's a really tough one to answer because so many people have different opinions on what they want from him. Me personally, I'd like to see him just behind the striker. So ideally, that would be someone like Broja, but obviously he's injured. Fofana, I think at this stage, just play him because Havertz, like Doogie said, has been massively disappointing despite his technical excellence. I would like him just in behind a striker, if I'm honest. I know that so much has been made that he loves Kaka and he sees himself as this driving 10 that can score and can create and can assist. Well, let's put him in that position and see if he can do it, because Chelsea's squad has been depleted by injuries. Let's have it right.
Yeah.
But also, we've all been talking about Chelsea as this project now, the Graham Potter project, the Bowley Code project. Well, let's start playing the younger players, because we're not going to win the league. We're most likely not going to get top 4. We're probably not going to do anything in the Champions League, although it would be typical Chelsea to come 14th in the Premier League and win it. I think if you can now instigate a team where there's youthful vibrance. I want to see Hall in the midfield. I like him at left back, but he is a midfielder. I want to see Carnes playing. I want to see Felix just tucking in behind the striker and give him a chance. It's tough for players like Mason and Pulisic and Sterling and Kai to fit around, but you know what? None of them have really been that great this year. Mason was outstanding last year and Sterling's a phenomenal player too, but this season it's not quite clicked. So let's just try and switch it up a bit. Personally, I'd have him in a 4-2-3-1, just in behind that striker and see what he can do and see if he can drive, because lots of Chelsea fans have said this, and I think it's true. He's one of the most naturally gifted players we've signed in years. It's just whether he can engage with that talent he has in what is potentially the world's hardest league and a team that potentially gets more scrutiny than any other aside from United, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good point. I mean, Dukes, for Joao Felix, who's been at Atleti now for a few seasons, is not quite worked out. Why hasn't it quite worked out? And do you not still feel that maybe there's not the perfect place for him in this Chelsea squad? How would you play him?
I think he's been a victim slightly of circumstance and his manager, really. I mean, it's easy to forget that he did have a very good year at Benfica. There were a host of clubs interested in him. Was Atletico Madrid the right pick from him and George Mendes? Possibly not. He went for the 5th highest fee in history at the time. He's the 2nd most expensive teenager of all time, behind Mbappe at that stage. And he's never scored more than 10 goals in a season in all competitions. As Jay mentioned, not a great disciplinary record there either. And it felt like every time he was building up a head of steam, something would knock him back. He's had numerous very short-term injuries. I think he's had 6 different injuries lasting between 3 and 6 games, which just knocks your momentum every time. He had a bout of COVID when he was hitting the ground running. But it'd be unfair to paint his spell at Atleti as a total disaster. I mean, he was named their Player of the Year last year.
Won the league?
Won the league, of course, was in and out of the side that year. But in the Champions League in particular, he got an assist against Liverpool in that famous tie just before COVID. He scored against Bayern Munich. He got a goal against Man United last season, which set up that tie against Man City, which they only lost 1-0. And that was a poor Atleti side that year as well. So he has risen to the occasion at times in the Champions League, but in the league, where you're looking for a £100 million player to make the difference week in, week out, he just hasn't managed to do that. I think he's scored in consecutive games in La Liga 3 times in 3.5 years. And all those times against Cadiz as one of the teams, one of the minnows of La Liga. So he's had no impact in the bigger games in La Liga in particular, yet to score or assist against Real Madrid or Barcelona. And then he has fallen out with Simeone. I think it was a game against Club Brugge earlier this year in the Champions League. Simeone asked him to warm up 3 times and didn't send him on. And apparently after that, Joao Felix was like, look, I want to join a different club, which is what Hill was talking about during the World Cup, that, you know, they took a massive bet on this player, and through, you know, circumstances and his relationship with Simeone, it was the right time to part. But for Atleti to be willing to loan out their €126 million striker for a fee for 6 months when they've got a race for top 4 on, probably just goes to show how bad that relationship between him and Simeone had become. So I think for Joao Felix, this is great to get out of there, even if it is to a Chelsea side that are struggling, because it clearly wasn't working at Atleti. But I am surprised that Atleti have taken this risk.
Interesting. Jay, I mean, look, he's got 6 months here. At the moment, there's an option to buy, so the future afterwards at Chelsea may not be happening. But what is success for him at Chelsea? What do you think, as a fan, success would be for him playing at Stamford Bridge? Is there a certain amount of goal involvements where you'd be like, well, that's perfect? Because there's a lot of money on wages, as we mentioned, a lot of money on this fee. I mean, do you think it would have to be getting some sort of European football, probably not the Conference League, more Europa upwards, to consider it a successful loan?
It's tough, really, because for fear of this sound like a cop-out answer, I hope that his success is what he brings to the team. I think fans in the stadium need someone to get them off their seats. He's a very exciting player to watch. I'm genuinely not too pressed on specific goal or assist target numbers. I think if we can see him off the leash a bit, see him having some fun, put some smiles back on the crowd, because the Chelsea crowd are really miserable right now, and it's a genuinely really nasty place to be online too. If you can bring someone like Felix in, just a few things that he can do, the delicate touches, the sprints, just beating a man, something that we need to see a bit more of, something we've not really seen since Hazard left. I think if he can add a spark to the team to kickstart something, because regardless of injuries, let's not pretend that Chelsea's team is really poor. We've got some of the most talented youngsters in the world. We've still got some incredible defenders, albeit our best defender and attacker in Reece James is injured. I think if you want me to put some numbers to it, I'd love him to come away with 10 goals and assists in the league. I think that would be really, really good. Whether that happens, I'm not sure. But honestly, Chelsea needs someone who's going to cut through this attitude right now, this despondency. No one has any idea what the identity is, what the future path is, apart from getting all these youngsters in and seeing what happens. If Felix can spearhead a slight resurgence in this squad and can kickstart some solid relationships with the likes of Mount and others, I think that can be deemed as a success. And for him, if you see a slight improvement in his football and a boost in his numbers, which aren't terrible when you look, beyond the hood, that to me is a success. It's really hard, because at the moment we don't know what Chelsea are going to do, and not many players score for Chelsea in volume numbers, so it's hard.
No, I like it. It's a great answer. Doogie, then finally, we've kind of spoken of success at Chelsea. What do you think Joao Felix will be feeling like for this 6 months? Is it 6 months for him where he can really crack on? Obviously, there's rumours about Simeone leaving Atletico Madrid at the end of the season. You can check that out on Content Club Extra that went live yesterday on Eurofootball Daily. There'll be a link, I'm sure, in the description somewhere. What do you think for him, the focus in them is for the next 6 months? Just get back to, because he's mentioned so many times, I want to enjoy football, I want to be playing the football that I love, and obviously that's maybe not necessarily happening in that Atleti system. What do you think the next 6 months are for him? Predict the future for me, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Get my crystal ball out. I think he'll just want to replicate what we saw at the World Cup, which was really promising in parts, playing off Cristiano Ronaldo, particularly Gonzalo Ramos, playing alongside Bruno Fernandes in that sort of free creative role, particularly on the left-hand side. If he can carry that form into club football and do that consistently for not just a few games, a month, 6 weeks or so, because Chelsea really need him to hit the ground running. Particularly because, as we've discussed, the loan fee, but particularly because, you know, they sold Lukaku and got rid of Werner in the summer as well, or loaned Lukaku and got rid of Werner in the summer. So they did go into this season with a slight risk in terms of who was going to get the goals, and Sterling hasn't hit the ground running. So they certainly need someone to step up and deliver for them. And in terms of his own personal future, even if he doesn't move to Chelsea in the summer, he gets the opportunity to exceed, or excel rather, in what is commonly perceived as currently the best league in the world, and potentially join Atleti with the new manager in the summer, because as it was reported on El Chiringuito, not the most reliable of sources potentially, but Simeone is supposedly going to leave Atleti in the summer. You'd think Pochettino, Tuchel, Luis Enrique might be in the mix there. 3 managers with a better reputation for extracting more of attacking talent. So it could work out really well in his favour, and it could work out really well for Chelsea. 6 months, and you know, everyone leaves happy. But I just think it's going to be very difficult for him going into this side, which is so lacking in confidence. But that's just my thoughts.
Well, only time will tell. And who knows as well, if he has a great 6 months, then maybe Chelsea will go in for him in the summer. Or City, because there's no option to buy. But look, we'll see. We'll see. Jay, thank you so much, mate, for jumping on. You've been a fantastic guest. Where can people find you?
Listen, last thing on Felix. If you're gonna walk on ice, you might as well dance. If you're gonna walk on ice, you might as well dance. Chelsea are in the mud, and if something happens, something happens. You can find me on Twitter, J_Macintosh. But most importantly, like the video, subscribe to Eurofootball Daily, turn notification bells on, do all the good stuff. Check it out because the content's brilliant. And guys, I'm really grateful for you guys having me on. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
What a boy, Jay. You've absolutely smashed it. Thank you so much. Do what he said. Like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Get in the comments below. Let us know. And if you guys want to be involved in videos like this, like Jay has done fantastically, I mean, there's levels now. There's levels. You've got to be reaching
Pressure's on.
Then check us out on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff where we put out the tweets looking for fans. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys very soon.